Okay, thank you very much to ambassadors. Well, we have learned a lot from the European perspective and also the Korean perspective. Oftentimes, we think that we know each other very well. The Korean, many of you know well about Europe, and many of you have actually been to Europe, or so. But when we look at deeper insight, still we need to, both sides need to understand more what Koreans need to understand how Europeans are thinking, what kind of challenges and what kind of concern and opportunities what they will have. And the Europeans, and vice versa, the Europeans need to understand what is Korea's concern, what is Korea's aspiration. And so, actually the key is the younger generation. Well, as Ambassador Castillo-Fernandez mentioned, many of you will learn about Europe, and some of you will go for travel, and sometimes you will study there, bring the knowledge, and come back to Korea. And we have some European students also here, and also many other European students are studying currently at Korea University. So they will build bridges, and we will feed them to build much more solid bridges. Okay. Upon that note, I will invite again the two ambassadors to the podium, and we will have a Q&A session. So I personally don't like the table and the dinner table setting. Instead, this is more kind of the free setting. And I actually have a couple of questions beforehand, but I will also I will do it this way. I will ask one or two questions, maybe a common question or specific question to each ambassador, and then I will open the floor, so you will be free to ask the question and fulfill your curiosity. And when making a question, raising a question, please identify who you are, and then you can either comment or raise a question. Okay, the first question is to Ambassador Castillo-Fernandez. It's about the European economy. Okay, economy. Yeah, because maybe this summer might be quite gloomy. Maybe not this summer. Since the beginning of this year, already the energy prices, gas price, the electricity price, the energy prices skyrocketed, and even the sunflower seed oil from Ukraine is not readily available at the shops, and you have earlier in one of your earlier lectures you have mentioned that this will be the price to pay and price to share to defend our freedom. Okay, and I wholeheartedly agree on your remark. But I'm curious how long that kind of consensus or tolerance within Europe will last, especially regarding the energy price. Well, one of the questions from the student. So how Europeans will be united in front of the rising the energy price and Russia's kind of the strong grip to control the energy supply to Europe. So how what is your forecast?
It's a challenge, and there are risks. It's not easy. It's an enormous challenge. First, the economic impact of this crisis are not only felt in Europe; they are felt here as well. And the electricity bill will go quite high up here as well. And we already had issues with electricity supply and gas. I remember last year when I was in summer in Spain, the bills were already, doubling, tripling. So the war has certainly exacerbated much more this trend, and it has created, especially, a food crisis because blocking the wheat export from Ukraine, bombarding the wheat fields. This is all Putin's doing. Our sanctions don't target the agriculture sector in Russia. They don't cover agriculture. They don't block any agriculture exports from Russia. So that is not what is. The problem is using food, using energy as a weapon. They think, we close the robinet here, we close the tap, and therefore the prices will go up. I receive much more cash, and Europe suffers. But it is, although it's very challenging, I tell you, still today people are willing to pay for that, and I will. My electricity bill now in summer will go very high, but I will say another thing we have to do is consume less. And you see many leaders telling the people, well, you have to again start thinking of consuming less. And we tend to use too much in a way because we have been accustomed to the air conditioning, we have been accustomed to having cars with air conditioning, we have been accustomed to lights all over. So we need to start a bit having conscious. That being said, it's going to be a challenge. We have, at European level, there will be now a big package coming to try to put some ideas, some actions to try to control this very important trend. This will affect everyone, but we have seen signs of solidarity. Countries, when Russia decided to close the tap of Bulgaria gas, Greece quickly came into helping. So joint procurement of gas, we have been doing at European level what we did with the vaccines. We buy the gas as one single Europe, not as Germany, France, one single. That means that we need more volume so we can negotiate more and better prices. We are creating new alliance with new countries, being Qatar, Norway, the US, Algeria, who have gas. Before we didn't have that. So in order for us to bring us new gas. So diversification of supplies will certainly, the lesson here is we will not depend anymore on Russia's oil, gas and petrol in most of the countries, and in particularly the dependence will go very, very, very low. And the second is energy renewables. So a lot of investment in renewables. I know it's not something for tomorrow, but you will see more and more if you go to Europe and the Europeans who are here, more use of wind, more use of biomass, more use of solar, more use of hydrogen. So a lot in research and innovation. That's why we need to do it together. These are just there are problems. When you bring your gas from Algeria, you get to the coast of Europe and say, where do I have my gas, I need to put it into gas. It's liquefied. I have to turn it, so you need a big refinery for this. We didn't have refineries, not many. In the coast of Spain and Portugal, yes, but not in Germany. So how do you send the pipelines? How do you send all this? So there is a lot of infrastructure problems and challenges. But I think that today, I can say, I'm not in Europe now, but I will go in this week. We don't see Ukrainian fatigue, okay? And because Russia is continuing, we know this is a war for the long term. We are not going to finish this soon. So you have to think that. And you have used the weapons. You have used things which are impacting the whole world as weapons. And therefore, we need to. We are still there. We still see bombardments. There is the shield of continuous Ukrainian cities, towns. We saw yesterday or this weekend how many civil persons were dead for a missile strikes. It doesn't stop. So I think that is important. And when you see that. The economic crisis was not there, but the energy crisis was there, and it's going worse. So yes, with a lot of challenges, but I think I maintain what I say. They are really defending our rights, and you see how much solidarity in Europe. All the people have brought refugees at home. You know, many people were there helping them. Many of them have come back, but not all. And that is still, you know, a big. What Europe has done for this crisis. Listen, you need to change also your course of European law, because this is an example of extreme unity, very quick, because the essence of Europe was at stake. You know, Europe, as Ambassador Kim, is a peace project, and we haven't seen war in Europe at that like this for no reason. So we don't want to see that.
So oftentimes, and actually throughout the history, the crisis have strengthened, well, not weakened, but strengthened the unity of the European integration. And
an invisible force that put us together suddenly when you have us, you know, when you're at the break.
hope that resilience will be revived in the forthcoming months. Okay, the next question is to Ambassador Kim, and it's about one rather technical diplomatic question, and one a bit more the bigger question. Korea joined the NATO global partnership many years ago, but after this NATO summit, Korean government announced that it will establish NATO representative in Brussels. So why it has been a bit delayed to establish like the technical the former NATO representative in Brussels? Then that will be the short question. And another question is the China issue. Okay, so the U.S.-China competition has been going on, and nowadays the European countries are also in the NATO summit. The NATO designated China as a systemic challenger. So amid this growing kind of the tension, what should be Korea's position? This is a very difficult question, and somehow the answer was quite clearly found in the recent the government announcement, also in the Madrid summit. But as a seasoned diplomat, what is your interpretation?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I was ambassador in Brussels, I was not the ambassador only to Belgium and EU, but in reality, I was ambassador to NATO and Luxembourg too. We are in the same situation with Australia. They are one ambassador to 4 countries and institutions. But it's the relationship between Korea and NATO has becoming closer and closer. In the past, we were just contact country at the beginning, but we became a partner country, and they started to invite us regularly to their North Atlantic Council meetings hosted by Secretary General. They want to know about what is going on in the Korean Peninsula and what Asia Pacific countries think about China's growing influence in the region. And probably now is the time to set up an office there to have more contact with NATO partners. After all, NATO and EU are interconnected. Many people work in both institutions. After they work in EU, they work in NATO, then come back. And about China, I think European Union shows us the complexity of the issues. EU defined China as a strategic partner number one. Then economic competitor. Then number three, systemic rival. And probably the Biden administration followed that formula. At the beginning, they formulated China as for competition, confrontation, and collaboration, cooperation. And Secretary Blinken gave a speech at NATO last year, and he said he understands the complex relationship that our partner countries are having with China. We are not asking you to choose between United States or China. For some issues, we have to cooperate with China for climate change issues, pandemic issues. But for some issues, we have to confront and compete with them. Apparently, Biden administration is now more focusing on competition. And probably that is one indication for Korea to take. We'll have also complex relationship with China. We'll follow our values, then also our national interests in very close collaboration with EU and United States.
Anything to add on China from the Europeans?
It is, I mean, Ambassador Kim said it very clearly, but it's a complex relation. We have our difficulties. We don't share the same values. That is clear. And of course, that limits. I mean, we become more public than Korea in Hong Kong, in Xi'an, in Shenzhen, and in labor issues. We come also very openly on asking them for a level playing field, because our companies are not competing in the same conditions in China. Your companies are not competing either, and I think that is important. We want them to be a real WTO member and be part of the norm setting. But when it comes to values, certainly we don't. But we need China. We speak to China. China is an important partner to us, and I think that what we told China is on Russia, have a constructive role, help us with this war, and I hope that they don't go, just blindly supporting what Russia is doing, and I think they are also being careful on the issue of sanctions. So yes, I think China for Korea is also so important. I mean. Big trading partner. They are part of our Indo-Pacific strategy because all these relations with Indo-Pacific countries go into a very big strategy and guidelines, which means simply cooperation, as you mentioned, not confrontation, which means not isolating, not against anyone, not isolating. We don't have the continuous confrontation with China, no, not at all. We sit with China, we speak, we tell them what we think. And I think there Korea needs to be a bit more open, more vocal, not be afraid of saying. Sometimes China retaliates. What happened with Lithuania? Lithuania opened an office in Taiwan, and suddenly all the trade, again using weapons, trade as a weapon, political weapon, blocking the trade. That we don't want. And when it attacks one country in the European Union, it attacks the whole.
Yes, I've been recently been to Brussels and Paris, and one thing I found interesting vis-a-vis a couple of years ago, especially BC era, the before Corona era, and was that the big difference was there were almost no Chinese tourists. Yeah. Of course, the other China has a very strict lockdown and quarantine control, but. Somehow, in the meantime, also the European sentiment and public opinion towards China has actually here as well, in Korea as well. So it is really curious. I'm really curious when the pandemic will be over. But what kind of new relation, China, Korea, Europe, the United States will have, so that might be an open question.
It's for all of you to
Yeah,
develop.
exactly. All right. So now I will open the floor, and we will answer your curiosity as much as possible. Okay. So, is there anyone who wants to kick off? Okay. 저 뒤에, yeah. The gentleman in the.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador. I'm a student of the Korea University. My name is Hyoung-zhin Kim. I think it is important for South Korea to establish the cooperative organizations like the EU in order to grow even more than now. So how South Korea can establish relations with neighbors in a situation where South Korea coexists with North Korea? So how to... yes.
Excuse me, could you, if you agree, could you remove the mask? Yes, because we cannot actually hear well.
I think it is important for South Korea to establish cooperative organizations like the EU in order to grow even more than now. So how South Korea can establish relations with the neighbors in a situation where South Korea coexists with North Korea? Thank you very much.
So how to enhance the relation with the
Yes.
neighboring countries?
Yes,
So and
coincidence with North Korea.
So so you want to know about the kind of the European tip, or
Yes, like that.
more like so. Yeah.
I mean, first you need trust. In diplomacy and in life, you need trust. If you don't trust your boyfriend or your wife, then things are not going well. So, and I think that is very much important. And you need to build a trust. You need to get to know what you were mentioning. Need to know we act as bridges, as diplomats as well. So, how to create a trust is not easy. You need to create more trust with Japan, and I know your foreign minister is today there. In Europe, the European peace project was between those who were enemies in the two world wars. You had Germany and Italy on the one side, and you had the Benelux and France on the other side, which were invaded, and more than 20 million deaths, people killed in the Second World War. So it's possible. There is possible, but you have to have a political will. You need to have leaders that have a political vision, that are willing to put national interests a bit aside and look at the more general picture. And I think that trust is not yet here in the region. There is a lot of mistrust. And perhaps people can help, because cultural exchanges, people-to-people exchange, if that is open, you can influence, public opinions can influence politicians. Look what happened in Europe with climate. The climate agenda was forced into politicians from bottom up. It was the younger generation pushing, and therefore now every politician has become green, otherwise they don't have any votes. Even the conservatives, there's no more green parties because they have all become green, and there is the green policy. So I think that's very important that you as younger generation try to make us, as Professor Lee was saying, the bridging. You can make a better understanding of cultures, and because here in Northeast Asia you need more trust. You need to bond better together. ASEAN is another example. ASEAN is not Europe. Very difficult to take decisions at ASEAN level, but slowly there is a growing feeling that they coordinate more. They speak more to each other. Of course, not all of them agree on human rights and same values, but there is a sort of slowly a possibility to work with ASEAN. Korea has relations with ASEAN as a group, so we have relations with ASEAN as a group. So it's possible.
Actually, Ambassador Kim has long been in the forefront of managing that kind of the Korean diplomacy. And any short tip to enhance the...
Probably the experience of European Union gives us some insights about our cooperation in the region. Even those countries that have good relationship now, they remember the past difficulties. There are people in Luxembourg that suffered from Nazi invasion, but they have overcome that kind of mistrust from the past, and they have achieved quite a lot of integration and collaboration. The aggressors showed deep remorse, and countries invaded also forgive the invaders, and they focus on higher values, then they move forward. Probably that's the lessons we can learn in East Asia.
Certainly, the way to remember is important, but way to overcome will be even more important for the future. Okay, so shall we move to the next question? Yep.
On one of the PowerPoints you mentioned Russia's aggression.
So please identify yourself briefly, and well, it's definitely up to you, but you may remove the mask just a little wider, because somehow we can hear your voice clearly.
My name is Amy. I just flew in from the States. I'm affiliated with the student tier, which is why I'm able to have this time to ask a question that I've been dying to ask. You mentioned on one of the PowerPoints that it was Russia's aggression, and I wanted to know if there were any members within the EU or NATO that justify the aggression, and if so, what are their opinions?
No single member, not on
Zero.
Of course, zero. There's a clear, very clear unity of all that this is an unprovoked and unjustified aggression to another sovereign country, that it puts into question international order. This is a violation of the Helsinki Agreements, United Nations Charter, Minsk agreements, OSCE agreements, because those agreements, especially Helsinki and OSCE, those were the agreements who decide on the security of Europe. And that is also the basis of NATO. So there was an agreement of non-aggression. You don't invade, you respect sovereignty and territorial integrity. Those are key principles of the United Charter. Otherwise, any big country can just take a small country. I mean, China could come and say, oh, I like South Korea, I'm just fed up with you going to the US, I'm going to take you over. You know, why? You know, otherwise, small countries like Luxembourg, Malta, Chypre, cannot survive because you have to be under the zones of influence. That was the policy in the 18th century, but not anymore. We don't believe on zones of influence. The fact that you tell a country that if you are voting or to go to or your own decision as country to go closer to Europe or to go to NATO, I will invade you.
So would you say that's Putin's decision alone?
That's Putin's decision, yeah. I mean, it's not me that says this. This is my EU leaders, that all of the 27 EU leaders that say. You have that documented in many statements of the EU at 27 countries.
Okay, shall we move to the next question?
Thank you.
We have two questions, and maybe lady first, and then gentleman.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Nasan. I'm taking Professor Lee's course on European economics. I have a question for Ms. Maria Fernandez. Can you talk a bit about European security strategy and what are the implications to strengthen Europe's resilience from foreign threat?
So, European.
Could you repeat the last part?
What are the strategies to strengthen Europe's resilience from foreign threat?
Resilience from the foreign threat, external threat.
Which is very big. Well, to work as one, that will be the short answer. Unity is clear because many of the foreign threats are global. And as Ambassador mentioned, they need concerted actions. So we working as one, but working with the others. And with the others, I mean everyone. You can look at cyber today, cyber threats. This is one of the big challenges that we are going to have in the future. But, we need very close collaboration because many of the cyber threats come from countries, North Korea, Russia, China, and even perhaps some are working from the States or from Europe. We have them all there. So we need a very close collaboration, a maritime security where we are defending our waters. That is freedom of navigation. That are principles that, our trade comes through these waters. 50% of European trade comes from Asia. So we have all our boats, all our ships full of containers coming to bring the trade to Europe. That's why something happens in the South China Sea and we are concerned. Very much, or something happens here in the waters in the Northeast Asia. So all of these are important. Terrorist threat. Terrorists work all over the world. They have networks all over the world. Climate change is another big threat. We need to do it together. So first at European level, we try to at the beginning, you see divisions between countries, but then it was the same with the pandemic and with the electricity. Last year when we had the electricity crisis, I remember the Spanish Prime Minister suddenly, Europe, help me. Well, yeah, there are things we can do, things we cannot do, So it's the first thing, I cannot do it, let's do it at European level. So that unity is very important because one single country alone, all the threats that you mentioned or you think about are all global. So very little threats. If you even think of criminology, crimes, there is enormous crime networks, international networks all over. So you need collaboration, more collaboration of security agencies, Interpol, Europol. So terrorists, counterterrorism, cyber, maritime security, climate, even inflation, collaboration between central banks, very important. So unity and collaboration will be my answer.
Unity and collaboration. Thank you. Shall we go to...
Hello, my name is Wan Bin. I'm a student here at Korea University in the Division of International Studies. And I'm also taking Professor Lee's course on European economics. Firstly, just thanks so much for the very informative talk. I've really learned a lot. One question that I had was with relation to the invasion of Ukraine from Russia, where I think there was a mention about how there was cooperation between the EU and Korea to provide humanitarian aid. But I think also one of the key ways we deal with the crisis right now is also punitive measures against Russia, where we are very proactive in also taking sanctions against Russia in order to punish them for their behavior and to incentivize them to stop the war or to resolve the conflict. I was wondering if there were cooperative measures between EU and Korea or EU or other non-member states in taking those punitive measures and making them more effective. And I also was wondering if there was a specific role that Korea was playing in terms of making those punitive measures more effective.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we would like that many more countries in the world apply sanctions. So when the war started, there were many, 141 countries of the 192 of the UN which condemned the aggression. Not all of the 141 put sanctions, but I think that many are putting in place different variety of sanctions. And it's very important also that the countries play a role to try to avoid the sanctions. You know, sanctions avoidance is very common. So you need also to put or to work that doesn't happen. It is important. This is the first time that this package of sanctions was so big, and I think that took by surprise Russia, because never before we had stop central banks from doing exchange. We didn't touch the currency, and now it's key. We are coming with the sixth package of sanctions soon, and that is very important. Korea has worked very close with us on sanctions. They could do more, yes. I've said that publicly many times. We will be happy that they do more, but what they're doing is very helpful. They are also helping us, as you said, with supporting Ukraine, because one thing is isolating Russia, and sanctions are starting to hit the Russian economy. Russian economy will lose more than 20% this year in GDP because of the sanctions. So these are sanctions that, tomorrow they take a long time, and they are hitting many sectors of especially technological advance. They are hitting technology, and Russia will not be able to develop its own new technology. But very important is the support of Ukraine, and we have to reconstruct Ukraine, and that's going to cost a lot of money. So, the promise made in the Lugano conference by Korea that they will be part of that reconstruction are very important. Now we are helping Ukraine in every possible way, even taking the grain, the 20 million tons of grain that are there blocked, that are not getting into many of the countries, in particular in Africa, which need that grain, and the fertilizers. We are helping them through convoys of trains through Romania, trying to get them out. But in the convoys of trains, you can put not so much grain as you can put in boats or in ships containers, so there are always limitations. We are unifying, giving Ukraine electricity. Because of all the bombardments, the electricity grid has been very much damaged. And because the nuclear powers that they had stations were in the area where there are conflicts. So we are helping them, connecting their grid to our grid in terms of solidarity, helping all the refugees, giving macroeconomic assistance. So whatever assistance Korea and others can give to them, it's very important, very helpful.
Ambassador Kim, well, you know much more. You know a lot about the effect of sanction and also the Korea's aid to Ukraine issue.
Korea collaborates very closely with like-minded countries on what Korea should do, and Korea tries to do its part, especially in helping Ukraine, and also taking some punitive measures on Russia. But we need to also have internal coordination among the ministries to implement any sanction measures on Russia. But the market is responding even quicker than government responses. Even before government prevented airline companies to fly over Russian territory. Insurance companies did not cover that part of the flight over Russian territory, and airline companies could not go over the Russian territory. And the difficulty of sanction is that the effect does not come as quickly as people who put sanctions on want. But it is also difficult to remove sanctions in the future. The relationship with Russia, EU and Russia, United States, Russia, and other countries with Russia will be affected for a long time. And in peace, we have to think about war, but in war, we have to also think about peace. And that kind of strategy may be necessary.
Thank you very much. I guess the time is almost time fast. But it flows too fast. So I will end up with one last wrapping up question. Actually, we are, while discussing this European issues, Ukrainian issues, but here in Korea, the big question and big task is what will be the Korea's future role in global security and also the global society? So what Korea should do, should focus more on what kind of endeavor the Korean government, especially in relation with Europe. Sure, can we start from Ambassador Kim?
Yeah. You may tell Korea will play a bigger role in the future by the fact that Korean government is now going to set up its office to NATO and will have a closer coordination and collaboration there. And overall, Korea has come a long way. It was a country totally devastated by war. It has nothing to offer. But as I mentioned, it is the only country that changes its status from a developing country to a developed country in the history of UNCTAD. And as a developed country, Korea wants to play a bigger role for values in the international community, for global security. And as Korea is especially strong in IT and new technology, Korea may be able to play a bigger role in cybersecurity and other kinds of cooperation in the future.
I will just add that when we want Korea at our side, of course, playing that very important global role with us, but sometimes when you become more active globally, you also, and defending values and interests, that also comes sometimes with cost and sacrifice. The war in Ukraine is going to put a lot of sacrifice in European citizens. So you should be also ready for that as well. Sometimes to speak out, and it will come with some consequence, yes, but you are defending your values and your interest.
Thank you very much indeed. Certainly we want to have another hours of a long discussion, but somehow our schedule time is over. So once again, I appreciate the two ambassadors delivering the excellent messages and also the answers to the questions. So please join me thanking the two ambassadors, and please give them big rounds of applause.